This week on In Post, a live edit, raw, uncut, and without a net. Hi everybody, my name is Scott Davenport, and welcome to In Post. So this week I'm breaking format a bit. Normally I would show you a photo I've already processed and talk about, why I changed sliders in such a way or why I added this filter or that filter. And that helps keep the video time down. It's consumable. We all have busy lives, and so a 7 to 10 minute video we can fit in to our schedules and get what we want to get out of it quickly. But that can give you the impression that I'm able to do photo edits in 10 minutes all the time, and that's certainly not true. So today I thought I would process a photo I haven't done yet, and I'm just going to record the entire thing, effectively live, maybe live in quotes. And I'm not going to edit it, and you're going to see mistakes, bumps, bruises, whatever may happen here. Now, I am choosing a photo that's reasonably simplistic composition. I'm not going to have to do epic amounts of masking or things like that because, honestly, that would get very, very boring. But the point is, I have not processed this photo at all. It's, made it into my Lightroom catalog, it's been keyworded, and it's ready to get processed. And so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to dive right in, and we'll see what comes out on the other side. All right, so this is the image we're going to work with. This is straight out of the camera. I've done nothing at all with the image. So if I do a backslash before and after, exactly the same. So the first thing I'm going to reach for is lens corrections. I always turn on the profile corrections, and that's going to give me a little, usually bows things out a little bit. This was shot at a reasonably wide angle. And I'm happy with that. Next, I will do spot removal. I'm going to grab the spot removal tool, and I just crank this slider all the way up to the top and turn on visualize spots. And there's always a few things that I just wouldn't see otherwise. In this one I can see in the water here, and there's one I can see up in the sky. But otherwise I have trouble seeing them all. So I'm going to make my brush or my spot removal bigger, make sure I'm set to heal. Yes. Click that one. That one. And for these nice big uniform areas of sky, Lightroom's going to do a very good job at making those just disappear. If it were any more complicated, I won't use spot removal. Like there is like a streak of, I think it was a duck that was moving through the water. I'm going to take care of that in on-one layers with their retouching tools because they do a better job. But for simple dust, I'm happy with that. We'll close that out. Now let's get into the basic panel. This is where most of the action's going to happen. So white balance. I'll start with white balance, and this thing right here should look a little white. That's a nice adjustment. Let's see what auto does. Oh, that's terrible. I don't like that. It was much bluer. It was before dawn. The sun had not come up. We still had blue hour. Let's also try a little click on this boat over there. I'm going to be happy with that either way. That's pretty okay. Tint. I will nudge that ever so slightly to the right, so a little more toward the magenta. See, if I go too far, it's going to get overly purple. And, proof in the pudding, this is a live thing. I don't know if you heard my doorbell ring. We're going to keep going, though, because we got photos to make. So exposure, I'm going to bring that up just a little bit, pressing J key to make sure I don't clip. We can see I'm okay there, not clipping at all. Now for contrast, holding down the V key, switches to black and white, and then I'm sliding contrast. I'm watching the screen as I move contrast to the right. And I like to use the black and white mode because I get a really good feel for the contrast of the image. That looks nice, and you can see the colors have really popped up quite nicely. Now I'll switch to whites and blacks. Option key, sliding the whites to the right until I see some clipping, and I'll back off. Same thing with the blacks. I'm going to slide to the left until I see clipping, and I'll back off. Turn off my J key there. So these highlights here are very, very hot. I'll take the highlights down. You should see those windows get reined in a little bit more. That's good. And the shadows open up just a little bit, and I'm kind of watching this spot of the screen. That's looking cool. Clarity. Now this is another place where I'll hit the V key again and I'll go into black and white mode. is I can just see the crispness a little better. And be somewhere around there. A little bit of vibrance. And I'm not going to touch saturation. I'll show you because that's going to really heat this red house up way too much. Reds and oranges really get tweaked terribly by saturation. So if I end up doing any color work, I'll do that in on one. Speaking of which, I'm done with this part of it here. So I'm going to bring this over into on one and finish it up. So let's do photo, edit in, on one photo 10. I have that set up as my kind of shortcut there. Wait for this to load over. Edit with adjustments. Yes, I will. All right, I'm going to accelerate the prepare file for editing because watching that bar is going to be really, really boring. So here we go. All right, so here we are in layers. Very first thing I'm going to do is reach for the perfect eraser, and I'm going to take care of this remnant of a duck here. So I'm going to roll this over here. Yeah, it's definitely a duck. And actually, now that I'm zoomed in, see this texture here? I'm going to use the clone tool instead because I want to maintain that texture. So there, feather, let's bring that up a little bit. Option click, and kind of brush that through there. Not a good lineup. Let's try, we'll give the eraser a shot. I'm going to give it a single click and see how it does. Actually, that did a really good job. I like that. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing here, a little wiggle there, just to break up that duck. That does not look good. That smudged things. And now I'm going to back off both of those. And I will try one more time, but using clone with a larger brush head, something very, very large, and be a little more particular about where I click. So I've got my swatch. Yeah, the tones are a little bit off there. I'm going to lower the opacity. Whoops, let's try that again. Opacity, something like that. Nah, it still doesn't look right. So I think I'm going to try one more sample from this side here, which is a little closer in tone. That looks a little dark. Ooh, we are having some challenges here. Let's crank that opacity back up. I want to option click here. That's definitely dark. Coming in from the top, we can do that. Oops, I'm going to redo my option click. Can do that part there. That's one click. And I'll come in from the bottom a little bit. Okay, that's looking reasonable. And then just to kind of fill in maybe that spot. No, I don't like that spot, but that looks kind of reasonable. There's one other over here. This should be a little simpler to deal with. We'll grab that, sweep that down there, and then I'm going to use, where is it, the retouch. And that one I definitely want to lower my opacity on, kind of sweep that around the edges of this a little bit to blend that in. Not happy with that. Undo, undo, undo until I'm there again. So we're going to go back to clone. You can see when you're doing retouching, you often need to try a few things out a couple of times. That does not look good either. We'll get the brush and see if the perfect eraser and see if that does a better job this time. That looks better. That looks good. I guess I should have tried that the first time. Okay, Command 0, back to my zoomed in thing. So that's good. It's a little cleaner, and that's pretty okay. Now let's do a little bit of effects work. So I'm going to turn this into a smart layer, pop over into effects. Okay, first and foremost, I will add dynamic contrast. That is my all-time favorite, and that should give a nice crispness to the houses. Yeah, very nice. I'm going to back off the larges a little bit, and maybe a little bit on the medium, and just a tiny bit on the smalls. That'll be for these leaves here. That looks great. Next, let's take a look at color. So, color enhancer. Now the first one I want to play with is reds for the house. So here's reds, and maybe just a tiny bit of saturation. 3, 4, yeah, that's good. That I'm okay with. Now what about the blues? So up in the blues, I want to increase the blues some. I want to do a little bit of a shift toward purple, just a little bit. I'll get this area darker. That might be more of an aqua. Let's see how that does. I'm just doing something very drastic. Actually, didn't make much of a difference. So that's really not making headway there. So instead, I will look at doing something maybe with an adjustment gradient to darken that sky somewhat. Where is my adjustment gradient? There it is. So this is by default going to drop something that's going to make the sky insanely bright, which looks horrible. So I'll choose darken instead. And let's see how dark that starts to look. Okay, that's certainly too dark. We'll bring that up some. That looks pretty good. I now need to raise that spot right about just to the part where most of the houses are not in the gradient anymore. That's pretty good. And if I do a Control M, we can see where our mask is. So that's good. We're removing it from here. And so I'm going to use the brush and turn on the perfect brush and just remove the effect from the peaks of the houses, because I don't want to darken the houses. I just want to darken the sky. So there, and you get the idea here. There, and yeah, a little bit of chimney. This guy over here. These ones are pretty okay. I want to make sure I don't darken this red house at all. That's really kind of the star of the show here. Okay, Control M, turn that off. That's looking really nice. I think the last thing I'm going to do here is just a vignette. So we'll grab the filter, vignette, and oh, actually even that just straight out looks pretty good. I'll darken it a little bit. That's probably a little bit too much. Something like that. I'm going to lower the feather to 0 so I can see exactly where it is. Oh, the shape is good, actually. It's these edges of the houses aren't that important. It's the center that looks good. So I'm going to pop the filter back up, sorry, the feather back up to there. That's great. So yeah, so that is our end result. So here's the preview, before effects and after. And I think really the main things that brought this image really to life is the contrast to make these pop and you still get a little texture in the water, and then that adjustable gradient to darken the sky. That makes a big difference. That's really drawing my eyes to these nice bright row of houses. So the tip of the week is a great question. Let me just put it on the screen here, because I haven't actually done the recording of me editing the video yet. I'm doing all of the live interaction with the camera first. So here's the tip. I'm sure it's really good, and it's probably the best tip I've ever given. I think I could say that with high confidence. So in any event, that's the tip. You saw that in the processing, I'm sure. And that brings us to the end of In Post. Let me know if you liked this, and maybe I'll throw one of these into the flow every once in a while, because I think I think it demystifies. There's not this immense amount of magic that happens behind the wall of this computer here and so forth. There is a fair amount of experimentation. There is, let me try this. Ooh, that didn't look good. Let me back off. And those iterations, I think, happen for every photographer. And most of the time, and my own videos included, when I'm going to show you processing from beginning to end with the purpose of, here's the main things you want to get out of this, and here's the tips and tricks. Just making the video tight means it's semi-scripted. So if you did like it, let me know. Shoot me a comment on the video, contact me through my website. Any of those things would be great. And until next time, happy shooting.